Test, test, test. Test, test, test.
I'm gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. For the record, all members of council are here. Sorry for not speaking into the mic. With the exception of Julia, of Deputy Mayor Hart, I have not heard from her. Neither has Mr. Haley. Oh, thank you. So seems like she's coming right in now. So we'll go ahead and okay. So for the record, Deputy Mayor Hart has arrived. So items for discussion. Mr. Haley mentioned that Norma Jean Rios, who was going to do the MRJN presentation for item D, is not feeling well, so she won't be able to join us today. So we will have to strike item D from today's discussion items, and we will go right into E as our final item for discussion. Please note that Mr. Haley has added public comment to this agenda. We typically don't have public comment during workshops. You did send over an RCW that talks about public comment during council meetings. I read that, and it's my understanding that it's regular meetings. After reading that RCW, I don't know if you all have any other input. Irregardless, since it's been posted on today's agenda, I would like to honor it. I don't know what y'all's sentiments are, but go ahead.
I feel if there's going to be action items, as I believe there are a couple today, we should
Yeah.
have public comment.
So, yeah, and if there's gonna be action items, we should leave, I believe that's what the RCW stated.
Are we taking any action on any
Um,
of those tonight? Don't believe so.
Since I think that would probably be the only one.
It doesn't. Oh, there is a sign and agreement for the team. That's the first one, number 8.
I think that would probably be the only item
Yeah.
to take action. So we will leave the public comment for the agenda items, and then at the very end, we will call up folks to do public comment for general comment. Okay, moving on to public comment. Is there any public comment for today's active agenda? Hector, would you mind Okay. Okay, thank you. So, just to confirm for members of the audience, there's no one doing public comment for the active agenda, and I still ask to make sure, since we're kind of getting into this rhythm. Ms. Ripley, I just saw you approach the podium. Did you sign your name? Is there another document on there? Oh, okay, thank you for that clarification. Okay. Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anybody. Okay. So no one, for the record, nobody has signed up to do public comment for the active agenda, so we can go ahead and commence this meeting with the first item for discussion. And I believe action will be taken on this item A, Sunnyside Shark Swim Team Agreement Presentation. Ms. Aguirre, allow the interim city manager to sign the agreement for the Sunnyside Shark Swim Team to use the city pool for practice and events. Hello.
Hi there. I sent in a presentation as well. Okay, so I'll just start while he gets that going. I'm Janet Aguirre. I am the president of the Sunnyside Rotary Swim Team this season. Sorry about that. And I'm also the Mid-Valley Swim League vice president. Prior to those two positions, I've held various positions on the Sunnyside Sharks board. And the whole time being a parent, that's kind of how, they roped me in to being on the board. So I'm hoping with this presentation that I'll be able to answer some questions that I wasn't here to answer on Monday. Unfortunately, we had already had our information meeting scheduled when we were put on the agenda. So I had to carry through with our information meeting for parents first. And then you guys had agreed to table it by the time I was finished. So I hope that I can answer some of those questions for you tonight with this presentation. If at any point you have a question, if you'd stop and ask it then so we can get it clarified. And if I plan to cover it later on, I'll just let you know that, okay? So you can go to the next slide, please. Our beautiful pool. All right, so just starting off with a fun fact, the first written record of the Mid-Valley Swim League was actually recorded at our Sunnyside pool in 1975, so just a fun fact. And the Sharks are part of the Mid-Valley Swim League, which governs the activities of the Sunnyside Rotary Swim Team. There is a Mid-Valley Swim League board, and then we actually have our own for each team. And swimmers are allowed to swim for any team bordering their school district. There's a couple caveats to that, and I'll cover that here in just a second. And we are a nonprofit. We do have nonprofit status. This season, our Mid-Valley Swim League teams are Natchez, Selah, Sunnyside, Grandview, Prosser, and Othello. You might be asking, where's the Yakima team? There is not a Yakima team. They either go to Natchez or they go to Selah. And so those teams are usually made up of almost 200 swimmers each. And unfortunately, this year, Toppenish will not be having a swim team. They do not plan on opening their pool, and their board decided even if the pool was going to open, they wouldn't have enough time to form a team without having an actual set date for opening. So that actually leaves us open to accept swimmers in Toppenish, Zillah, Granger, Sunnyside, and Mapton. Because of that school bordering rule, since Toppenish doesn't have a team this year, they can actually come to us. And usually Zillah would go to them, and again, they can't. So they're going to come to us because Natchez and Selah are completely full. They just can't take more swimmers. And as a league, it was discussed that it'd just be beneficial as a region if they had somewhere to go. And obviously, we do have a cap for that. So if we were ever to reach that, we couldn't accept outside swimmers as well. Okay. Any questions on that slide? Yes, Mr. Dolan.
When you have the swimmers from the other
Mhm.
Swim teams, are they covered? Are they covered under our insurance?
Oh, I actually get to that here in just a bit. I'll answer that one here in just a second.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. And so our swim season runs from June 1st to July 30th this year. And we practice Monday through Thursday. I know that was a question during the board meeting, if we went 5 days a week, and we do not. Monday through Thursday, our swimmers have Friday off. And so a nice 3-day weekend for everybody. And our practices are divided by age group. in the contract that we're proposing and has been in the years past. There's a cap at 85 swimmers per session. So we have a cap of 170 swimmers across the board. And so we divide that accordingly, so that we never have that max in the pool. We've never reached that. We usually have about, 50 in the first one, 50 in the second, or, kind of similar in those numbers, depending on where we cut off the age group. And we do have one home meet per week this year. We have a very interesting and kind of awesome schedule, but we only have the one home meet per week. And our registration is open April 1st through June 1st. That first day in the water, we cut off registration. Just because some people are on the fence and they're not sure if their swimmer is going to pass the swim test that they have to have in order to be on the team. They have to swim that short distance of the pool without touching the bottom. And so sometimes that leaves them like, should I register? Should I not? And so we allow them to register up to that day. And that was another question, like hard numbers, right? That's just something we don't have until we close registration. So, all right, next one. Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor Galvan.
What times are your practice sessions?
Oh, okay, sure. We actually start our first practice in the water is at 6 a.m. This is during regular, not the first 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks we're still in school. So those are evening practices, and that goes from 5:30 to 7. And those are split in two. And our younger swimmers go first during that, and then our older swimmers go last. And then when we switch out to not being in school any longer, we still have the 2 sessions, and it starts at 6 a.m. and ends at 9.
9 a.m.
Mm-hmm. And then our older swimmers come in early, and our youngers come in later. Yeah, we swap them because when they're in school, it makes sense, right? When they're out of school, get the older kids up and going. So.
So the public has access to the pool from 9 a.m.
Correct. So in years previous, they've had swim lessons, and so we're always out before swim lessons would start. So that's how that's always worked out. We've never taken away from swim lessons, and that is also part of the contract we usually have. We don't compete with swim lessons. We don't offer swim lessons. We take the swimmer that already knows how to swim, right? Yeah. Okay, and so in the past 5 years, we've had between 80 to 100 swimmers. There was that time during COVID, that was very interesting. But we've kind of hung out around the hundreds mark. And registration always spikes that week right before the season starts. It's like, oh no, I got to get my registration in, right? So that was one of those other things where like hard numbers are hard to give. And I'm not just saying like a little spike, we're talking like over half the team registers the week before. And here's where we cover insurance. So each of our swimmers must have an AAU membership, and our insurance goes all the way through AAU. So everyone that registers has to have an AAU number before their registration is complete. And so we make sure that's all covered. And that's covered at a $2 million insurance that we carry. Okay. And then last year we did host the AAU Central Washington Swim Invitational, and we do have the opportunity to do it this season, but that's not part of this regular contract. I know some people were unsure how that worked, but that is not part of our regular season contract, just so everybody's clear on that one. And that is an extra cost to our swimmers to participate in those things. Champs and invitationals are an extra cost to the swimmers to participate. It's not part of regular season. Any questions on that one? Did I cover your question, Counselor Dolan? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Yes, of course.
I was just thinking when you go back to the kids are swimming, currently they're 5:30 to 7 and then later after school is out, it'll be 6 a.m. to 9. But also, do you have regular swim meet nights?
So that depends on the schedule. I did already give that one to Mr. Mejia, and it's already posted on our website so families can plan. We actually determine that after our championship meet at the end of like this season. We all pull numbers and that decides what order we go in. But there's always that chance, like, Toppenish had to pull out. So then we had to rework it. So it was something that I waited to present to Mr. Mejia until the beginning of the year once we knew that for sure. So yeah. All right. Next slide. Thank you so much. So we're now the only 50-meter pool from Yakima to Prosser since Toppenish is closed. It was us and Toppenish. They're closed. So that really does leave us open for additional swimmers that want to swim in that 50-meter. It probably doesn't sound fun to you guys, but as athletes or racers, that 50 meters where it's at, that's Olympic size. So we get swimmers that are very competitive and they want to beat their times, so then they can do league after our season and qualify for like pre-Olympics and things like that. And our meets are 100% volunteer ran. All of our families have to volunteer in order for their swimmer to swim. We can't make it happen any other way. It takes about 40 people just to run when we meet, because we have our timers, we have our runners, we have our stroke judges. And it sounds like a lot of people, but once everybody's on deck, you notice it's really not, because there's so much going on. And I always say it's a family sport because, like I said, if you're a swimmer swimming, you're volunteering. So it literally takes the whole family. And sometimes it's not just like the parents. Like we have cousins out there, we have, aunties and uncles, and we even have, younger siblings that are timing because maybe the parents don't want to. And so younger sibling volunteers, or just somebody that represents their family comes and volunteers. So it's very much a family sport. Any questions there? Nope. Okay. And then our fees. So we do charge $150 per swimmer, and that covers our contract with the city and then helps pay our coaches. And that doesn't cover all of our costs, obviously. So we are asking that you keep our fees as low as possible, just because we are a nonprofit, and we'd like to continue to have a swim season. And right now, costs are already kind of hard for the families. So if our fees raise, which we understand, every year there's usually a little bit of a change, then that's something that we would have to pass on to our families. We do offer things like sponsorships to those families. They can go out and ask businesses for sponsorships. We've brought on several fundraisers, and that kind of helps offset the expenses with donations. And we also have our Shark Shack where we do concessions, and we brought that back last year. It had been closed for a couple seasons. And that does help with some of our costs. But honestly, it's really hard because we want our families to go out and get those sponsorships. So as a team, we also can't ask for those, right? Because everybody's kind of topped out at some point. So if we can ask that the city keeps our fees as low as we can, then we can continue to keep that fee lower for our families and more affordable. Yes.
Have you been able to keep it at the 150?
So the 150 has actually been, we've had that now since a little after COVID. So the last 3 seasons we've been at the 150. We did have to raise it because we had a jump in swimmers, and so we needed additional coaching. And so that's where it kind of gets tricky, right? Is like the more swimmers we have, the more coaches we need. And then like the cost it's really hard for us to balance that, because we want to keep everybody safe and in the water. So yes. Did that answer your question? Go ahead.
It did. I mean, it's really
Yeah.
important to keep them affordable.
Exactly.
The community.
And that's why we offered more fundraisers this year than we have any other year. At the end of the year, we did a feedback survey for our families and, asked what we could do better or what we did right. And one of the things was like the cost, please, like if you could do anything with the cost. So we have offered several fundraisers already before the season started to help raise money for that registration fee.
And I believe you offer businesses, right?
Yeah, so that's under our sponsorship. We call that our banner sponsorship. And, the swimmer can take in, we've got a sponsorship form they can take in and ask businesses to sponsor a banner. And that pays for their registration fee and then leaves a little bit for us. And that usually helps offset some of those costs as well. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so you mentioned something about how it's been a little bit challenging if there's more swimmers, there's more coaching requirement
Right.
and demand. So
Yeah.
what do you predict as like now knowing that Toppenish will be closed? Do you think that you guys will grow?
So last year Toppenish was closed as well, but that started a little different. It looked a little different last year. They actually went as far as getting their team to register last year before they were told they wouldn't have a pool open. So all those swimmers were anticipated to swim, and then they were offered refunds, and they could come this way if they wanted to, right? So we only had about a handful of Toppenish swimmers last year. This time now, they already knew that. starting. So we've already had some Toppenish swimmers registering with us, which is nice because they were prepared for that move and knowing, hey, there's a nice 6 a.m., practice time, because that's some travel for those families as well. So knowing that, I see our numbers growing a little bit. But like I said, we usually hang around that 100. I don't see a huge jump happening, but I might be surprised. You never know, right? At this point, I'll be honest with you, we have like 12 swimmers registered. So like I said, we'll see that spike. It hasn't happened yet. Okay.
That's good. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Zach?
I just
Of
have
course.
another question regarding the registration.
Yes,
To all of their gear.
it does not.
So
That
there's a
is,
separate issue.
it is, yes. Uh-huh. And during practices, they can swim in whatever they like, obviously swimwear. But during competition, they have to have a black swimsuit. So that's another fee as well. And that's not something that's covered in the registration. That's just to pay for the cost of us renting the pool and for, coaching staff. Any other questions on there? Okay, of course.
You've been doing a really good job doing this. You've done it for a while. My kid swims, and we appreciate a lot of work that you put into it. There's a lot. People don't realize how much work there is to organize all the parents and the swim meets. But I want to give you kudos for that. You've done a
Thank
good job
you.
with it.
And we have a really great board. It's literally not just me. I know this year I'm helping drive that ship, but honestly, without a great board behind you, it's really hard. And that's always learned, right? So I appreciate those behind me this year. Do you guys have any more questions that I can help clarify? I know you're going to be talking about the contract itself. And I just want to make sure there's no outstanding questions.
Any other questions? I know there was questions particularly about the numbers. I think it was asked.
It was, and I tried to cover that, like I said, but it's just really hard to know. So it's
You're gonna
not
have-
something we can actually, project for this season just yet.
Said you're also having a cutoff, right?
We always have our cutoff on June 1st. That's registration cutoff. And we do allow our families within the 2 week start time. If for some reason it's not for them, it's not for their family, it's not for their swimmer, they get a refund, but we've already paid the city for them. So we're out that cost as well. But it's something in our contract that we've agreed upon giving our numbers. And so we do, and we pay for them in good faith. And sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Or you pick up another swimmer somewhere.
Yeah, we did actually, I think last year we had, like I said, you get those couple that come the first day and they're not sure they're going to make it. So I think last year we paid our bill in full, and then we had 8 swimmers that day that passed their swim test, and then we had to pay for them additionally.
Good.
What does the city charge you? Percentage?
So we're charged the season swim pass, whatever that rate is for on the fee schedule. That's what we always go by. I want to say it's $62.50 this time.
It's $62 for
No, 62. Sorry, exactly 62. I don't know where I got the 50, but $62, and that's what we're charged. And that's just for a regular season. I want to make that clear. That doesn't, handle any of the other events we may hold, like invitationals. That's over a couple days. That's completely separate.
One thing about this too is that every swimmer also gets a season pass.
Right.
So they get to swim on the team, plus they get to swim after on the weekends and all that,
Mhm.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And they usually bring friends with them that maybe aren't part of the swim team, but want to have fun in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Any other questions for Ms. Aguirre? Is there anything you'd like to add, Hector or Mr. Haley?
We are working towards we have a manager now. The offer was given today. Next week, we'll be working on getting our lifeguards. So we are working towards everything to make sure that we are ready for the swim team and all of the schools at the end of the year that have reserved the pool. So I'm working diligently to get it all taken care of. And this year we will be having our camera set up, our computer. Now that we have a new development technician on our side, she is knows about the pool. She's done the pool prior, and we're excited.
Good deal.
So there's
I could
action on this item.
read the motion.
Yeah, okay. What's the desire of council?
I move that we allow the interim city manager to sign the agreement for the use of the city of Sunnyside pool with the Sunnyside Shark swim team.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion on the table by Counselor Galvan, and I got a second by Counselor Chavez. Is there any further discussion? No? Okay. Counselor Chavez,
Yes.
Counselor Zasati,
Yes.
Counselor Vasquez,
Yes.
Counselor Dolan,
Yes.
Counselor Galvan,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
I too vote yes, motion carries. Okay, thank you for that. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is B. Change in ordinance from 2023 granting Ziply Fiber Pacific LLC and Ziply Wireless LLC to NFC Northwest LLC, or instruct staff to rewrite a new ordinance and bring it back to a regular council meeting. Instructs staff to rewrite or make a new ordinance for NFC Northwest LLC. Kind of what I just said. A little repetitive there. It's okay. Is this?
We all know what we're doing.
Yeah. Make sure it's clear. Mr. Haley.
Hector, go ahead and.
Yes. So back in 2023, obviously Ziply Wireless came into the city of Sunnyside and asked if there would be allowed an ordinance for them to bore underneath so they can get their wireless cable into their fiber optic lines. Come to find out, NFC is now or has been part of Ziply's wireless. But what they want to do is allow NFC to take the ordinance and make it their own under Ziply's, but take out Ziply's name because somehow they're conjoined together, and they just want to make sure that NFC is on there and it states that they're able to do the same process as Ziply's. On your guys' documents was the letter from NFC stating that Ziply and them are together. They would just like NFC to be stated on the ordinance. I can answer any questions if the council has any.
Council, any questions for Mr. Mejia?
So,
Counselor Vasquez.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Counselor Galvan.
Simply Fiber, there's still an active company. It's going to stick around, but this is just like it says, right, an affiliate.
This is their parent company, I believe.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and just for clarification, so you said that we will be adding NFC Northwest into the language of the ordinance, but we will also be removing Ziply Fiber, or can that remain? Will
So
that be remaining in the?
that would be remaining on there. I would
Okay.
just be adding the NFC.
Okay, perfect. That's where I just wanted clarity because I think it'd be cleaner if we just add it and not remove any.
Mhm.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay,
So would staff like me to just add it to this ordinance, or would you guys like me to rewrite it and bring it back to council for a updated ordinance?
I think if we're not removing any language that's already intact right now, then we could move forward with just adding that new name.
Okay. Then
Were you changing anything else or just adding that? That was it?
I was just adding their name.
Yeah.
So,
Put
yes.
it, yeah.
okay. I don't think we need a motion for this if this is just instruction.
Right, instruction. Yeah, the contract remains the same. It's just adding an affiliate name to the ordinance.
Ordinance. I will do that. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Mejia. Any other questions before we move on to C? No? Okay. Moving on to item C on the discussion. Municipal court presentation. I think we have some guests with us here today. Good evening, and I think you had a presentation, right? I think Jeffette might be working to get that up here.
Is it turned on for you there?
It is now.
Got it.
I should have known that.
Is that what these pieces of paper are for?
While he's pulling that up, I know a lot of you because I've been here before, but I'm Judge Lee, Troy Lee. And so I think there's 3 new members, I believe, right?
You're correct.
Dolan, Ms. Rosati, and Mr. Chavez. And if we can't get it up, that's fine. Honestly, we did a PowerPoint presentation for some who do that. I just like talking to people, so I'm a little bit different anyways. And so I almost viewed this as more of a question and answer.
I think it's coming. And we also have it on our packet.
Mhm.
Whenever you're ready.
All right. And Ms. Anquist was kind enough to do this PowerPoint presentation, and I have the slides right here. And so I'll talk a little bit about each slide. I think it works better if after each slide, if there's questions, because I think there's a lot of questions. I guess that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this meeting. All right, so we can go to the next. That's just. All right, separation of power slides, and I think we all know this, but there's executive branch, legislative branch, judicial branch. They're all separate, and this is that whole judicial independence, separation of power is something that's a hot topic every year, every time a new city council comes in all across the state. The general gist of it is the court is the court, and a city council and the executive branch need to be very careful about, they control the budget, and I understand that. But be very careful about intruding into the court's affairs just simply because it causes issues. I think those who were on the city council before recall a situation a couple years ago where I think what happened was one of our clerk positions got terminated. We didn't know anything about it. And behind the scenes, just to let you know, somebody, an anonymous person, I know who it was, went to a judicial independence committee and tried to get Sunnyside essentially in trouble. And I ended up having to talk to the judicial committee and ensuring them that I've talked to the then city manager and everybody knows what's going on. But they wanted the state attorney general to get involved. That was behind the scenes. I handled it, but be careful about those types of issues. That being said, I kind of get it. I mean, I do get it. You have a position where I'm a contract position. The court, there's a lot of expenses to a court. And so I do get that the flip side of that, like, why can't we control as much? I do get that. Now, the one thing, people who have been here before, and I've said this before, I view my position as the court as part of a team effort. And I think I've even said that before. I see the executive branch, I worry about the jail costs, I worry about how things are benefiting them. So I am looking at these things. I've never, ever taken the tact of, we're the court, don't talk to us about things, we just do our own thing. That also being said, from the get-go. So I started here in 2022, for those that haven't met me before. And when I started, I invited everybody, if there's any questions, I had an open door policy. I'm always available by phone or email. Not many have over the years taken me up on that. But I am one that if there's issues with the court or people have issues with the court, I'll address it head on. And I'll find a solution. But all right, so that's enough about the separation of powers. Does anybody have any questions?
No.
So on some of these, I'm educating. On some of these, I know there's questions as well. Okay, next slide. I flipped it. So this is self-explanatory. The population that we're serving that are indigent, it remains the same. It's maybe a little bit less in 2024. We don't have 2025s up there. But there's never going to be a huge change in people's indigency level here, in the population we're serving, in the number of defendants. You're never going to see a huge surge in those numbers. Right, next slide. Screening, because I know this was one of the topics, and so I imagine there's questions here. So I model my screening after other cities and counties and maybe more specifically district court, Yakima Municipal Court, but it's courts that I'm used to practicing in. So there's a screening form and it asks questions, and the general idea is people answer these questions. There's nobody checking these answers. And so when I first came on board, we did that. Like the jail would do that. I think recently the jail was like, please, this is taking too much time. Do we have to do this anymore? And I changed the policy there. People coming into the courtroom would fill out those forms. And I can tell you the great majority of people based upon those answers qualified for public defenders. Now I changed it partially for court efficiency and partially because it's not changing any of the basically changing the numbers, is I will simply ask them, can you afford an attorney? No. Now I will say this, I'm doing that on the record. I'm even pushing it. So what courts around the state now are doing, and it's gotten to this point, is with the screening of indigency, is simply asking. There's many courts that simply ask, can you afford, are you asking for an attorney? Yes. Okay, the court's going to appoint one. And there's many reasons for that. Number one is many judges have gotten in trouble for even trying to ask questions about financial situations. You can't ask on the record. That's what those screening forms ultimately are for. The second reason is because it seems like each year something else, the state puts something else out that, allows somebody to be eligible for court-appointed attorneys. Several years ago, what it was is if they receive any type of state assistance, it's automatic. You can't even ask any other questions, and there's really no point to asking any questions because as soon as that state assistance, such as food stamp programs, food assistance, it's over. They qualify under the state. As I was saying, in creating those procedures, I was trying to figure out, well, what is the difference if we do these screening forms? Has it really made a difference between how many people got assigned attorneys? And I can tell you it was zero difference between those two. Some cities, like King County, and it would have to be a bigger city. King County, their court system is huge. They do day court, they do night court. They just have a lot of cases. They actually pay staff people to verify information that people put onto forms to see if they qualify. I'm always willing to try something out with the court. I can tell you it's going to cost money. Number one, you need a staff person and I'm just going to throw out figures, but 60, 70,000. I think you would see that the costs you would save on the appointment of attorneys, especially in this community, which has a high indigent population and poverty level. The costs are going to be just a small fraction of what you're paying somebody to do. And so, it's one of the ways which courts are handcuffed in a way by the state of Washington. But I'm always willing to try things out. I don't think it would work that way though. Does anybody have any questions about that? This was one of the topics that I know was addressed, and so that's why I was.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
So the form, right? Most of the courts and the cities used. I was looking at the MRSC and some of the cities, kind of changed it a little bit around, but it still follows that RCW 10.101.020. And when my comments were, why aren't we doing this? And it wasn't more, I don't expect all of them to be screened for accuracies, but just the fact of having something like this, in my opinion, would probably, I don't know, deter somebody from lying. Just because I know of a few individuals that, based on the 2026 federal poverty level, they don't qualify, but yet they were appointed an attorney. So I'm not asking that we check them all. I'm just asking that, there's a few questions in here on this form where it's as simple as, what your income is, and just basing it off of the poverty level, you could probably catch a lot of them that will be lying. And I understand that more staffing, right? But that's if we're going through and checking each of the forms for accuracies or any proof of documents, that the court might suggest.
And like I said, I'm willing to go back to the form. It just didn't make a change. Part of what I'm looking at too, we have been struggling under huge dockets. And a lot of that, part of that has to do with how many defense attorneys we have and what their contract has said. So there's quite a few dockets. If anybody's ever been in here, it's not uncommon to have 100 cases on in one afternoon. And so I have to go very, very quickly. Arraignments, we've had 60 arraignments in the morning and trying to get done, by noon. Sometimes we don't get done until 1, and then the other docket starts over. I guess I'll get into this more with the indigency, and I know there's questions about the public defense contracts and things like that. But there is a push for me to get court streamlined as long as possible. If some of you recall, when we first started trying to get that up and running and try to get the court more efficient, it wasn't uncommon to intrude upon the city council time. So I think there was a couple times where at 6 o'clock at night, we still had court going on. And so I had to manage that a little bit better. I've been doing, so some of my background, I've been an attorney and most of the time a defense attorney, but I've also been a prosecutor, but I've been doing law for 26 years now, going on 26 years. And so in that time as a prosecutor and a defense attorney, we see it all the time. And I see the concern there. There's a lot of times that any defense attorney is, you get clientele that have you free of charge, because I've done a lot of public defense work over the years. And then they get in their Escalade and then drive off. That everybody who's been practicing law knows that happens. I will say, as I told the interim the other day, is there's some reasons for that and some reasons we can't even ask questions about. Some of those people have income that isn't reported. Some people have income that can't be reported. I guess I won't get into it any more than that, but that's stuff that we're never going to find. That's not stuff they're going to report on that sheet. But I'm willing to use it, if not only just to show that, see, here's our numbers here, and here's, with this sheet, and you're going to kind of see that it's the same. The only difference I think would make, but I don't think it would make that much of a difference, would be if we had somebody actually verifying information. Then you'd have people say, oh, they're verifying information. However, with another caveat there is, how do you verify the absence of information? So if you have somebody that isn't working and you can't verify information, how do you verify that's not correct? The only thing you can really do is verify that's receiving state assistance, which I think a lot of the population, at least that we deal with, they are. I will say this too, that any judge, any court knows this, that the kind of the criminal element, so to speak, that's a pretty small percentage of any population, of any city, of any county that you're dealing with. It's the same people over and over again. So you get to know those people, in fact, where they stand and if they're working and things like that. In my experience down here, actually, the people that end up hiring attorneys, because that's one of the other things that I look at, they said they were hiring an attorney from the get-go. They didn't want anything to do with public defenders, and usually those people are the ones that end up hiring. The flip side of that, you don't see that many occasions, and Ms. Enquist can correct me if I'm wrong, where somebody says, yeah, I want an attorney, I'm eligible, and then hires a private attorney. It doesn't happen too frequently. But the reverse is definitely true. Any other questions?
Wanted to add anything else, Counselor Galvin?
Well, I'll let them continue
Okay.
with the rest of the.
Okay. This is what I was talking about earlier. I mean, this at least is what we got from 2024. It's the poverty level. Sunnyside, 18.5, City of Toppenish, 18%. Maybe that would be flipped, but again, we're dealing with the poverty level in a community overall. We're not dealing with the poverty level of these, the individuals that we deal with on a routine basis in the courts. So, all right, next slide. Criminal cases filing. This is, I guess what I draw from here, what I was talking about earlier is even with ever increasing criminal cases. So 2023, 1,400, 2024, a little less than that, 2025 all the way up to 1,700, and we're probably on par more with that. Although with some changes to driving with suspended thirds made at the executive level, I think that'll dip down, trying to save caseloads. I'll get into that when we get to that slide. Criminal hearings held, that's where you start to see me trying to limit the number of criminal hearings to limit those docket sizes. Is 400 more cases from 2024 to 25, but not that many more hearings. So trying to limit the number of hearings just to limit the time and the expense. Right?
Question.
Sure.
So when we talk about caseloads, right? We're using the number on my left, I guess, the 1770 for 2025. Not necessarily the hearings, right? Because not every hearing needs an attorney per se.
It's more that if you have a case, then there could be 4 hearings, there could be 5 hearings, because you deal with a lot of pretrial hearings. It's very rarely probably that a case gets filed and then it's over at the next hearing. Maybe more so if people are in custody, I suppose, just because there's an incentive for people to want to resolve it. But the criminal hearings held, it's always going to be much, much higher than those criminal cases filed. And then as far as those criminal cases filed, understand that not all of those have public attorneys. I mean, the great majority do, but some of those have private attorneys as well. Might be a good time. I guess I don't want to skip ahead in slides or anything like that because Ms. Enquist took time preparing this. But I think the hot topic right now, and this is the hot topic in the state anyways, is public defense and caseload rules and things like that. That is just, it is destroying cities, to be blunt, and counties with the expenses. So maybe this is as good a time as any to talk about that. Can I skip ahead? That's probably what everybody's interested in more in anyways. All
You're
right.
right about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those cases
Go ahead.
are, because that's what we pay the attorneys is based on their caseload, so.
Right. So number one, we have this Toppenish contract that I think it's very good for the city of Sunnyside. I think they do pay their share. Now, over the years, it's kind of, I mean, let me give you an example here. When I first came on in 2022, I think it wasn't until later 2022, 2023, where I was looking at things and I realized that Toppenish actually wasn't under contract for the last like 5 years, 6 years, something like that. Nobody bothered to look at it. So then I did a lot of efforts to get it back up, and I actually modeled it after other places' contracts. And I do think it's good for the city of Sunnyside. Now, in that, I will also say over the years when we were kind of dealing with that, and I know there's a lot of turnover in Sunnyside now. There has been for quite some time. But there was things such as, well, no, we deal with it, like individuals in Sunnyside telling us, no, we deal with it, like, don't worry about it. To at times saying like, oh, we weren't billing like we were supposed to. So that's kind of finance's job to do that ultimately. So I do think that City of Toppenish contract is definitely profitable, and helps with the budget. So caseloads. So many years ago, the state of Washington passed caseload limits that it hurt. It didn't hurt as much. Like, it was perhaps a good thing. I definitely have my views of it. As I said, I've operated under those contracts and these same public defense contracts for probably about 18 years. So probably nobody knows better about these contracts and what needs to be in them than I do. My third caveat. The court can't be involved in contract negotiations and has to stay away from public defenders and these public defense contracts and defense caseload and where the numbers are at, and especially financial issues, just because court rule says we can't. They seem to always pass new rules saying don't get involved in that stuff. And so we have to kind of stay aside. That being said, I've always talked to people generally about how these contracts and how these caseloads numbers are supposed to go. So kind of to get back on track, going into effect this year is where things really are starting to hit with the caseload numbers. And that's why you're seeing it be a hot topic for cities and counties across Washington. That's has a 10-year plan to limit cases all the way from last year, one public defense attorney could handle 400 cases to where the state of Washington wants it in 10 years at 120, which is ridiculous. It's ludicrous. It would take so much money. I think it was Yakima Municipal Court or Yakima County said we would need 20 attorneys to kind of deal with our caseload at that limit. Maybe it was 22. That you have to couple that, as I said in the meeting the other day, with there is an attorney shortage, and it's real, and it's very profound, and it's hitting this area, especially the Lower Valley, very, very hard. There's not as many people coming from law school. There's not people coming into this area anymore to be attorneys. So one of the things with these public defense contracts and these public defenders, you have to be very, very careful. Because as I've said, if cities are like, no, you're going to do this, or any court is like, no, it's going to be this way, it's going to be this way, it's going to be this way, guess what they're going to do? The path of least resistance, and there's many other jurisdictions waiting to kind of scoop them up. I mean, it's a fight now over getting public defenders to handle caseloads. Even though I wasn't involved in the contract negotiations, or I don't even know how contracts are set up, but I can tell you how things should be done with those defense contracts. There has to be an independent person to count the numbers to make sure the numbers are being counted correctly. It's very easy attorneys are human. Attorneys mess up anyways, but it is also very easy to double count numbers, to double count cases. I mean, there has to be somebody that watches that stuff. And by and large, what I've seen from cities and counties that employ those types of contracts is there isn't a lot of accounting. Nobody's checking. And so that's creating issues. Go ahead.
I have a question, and looking at, the public defense services, where I understand that it prevents a conflict of interest for you to manage, the public defenders and whatnot. And Mr. Haley's been here a month and a half. So who's handling those right now for Sunnyside? Who's handling those numbers?
That's a good question.
I believe each attorney.
So, I mean, it depends upon who's checking at the city level. I believe Sunnyside is much like every other city that really there isn't a lot of oversight. I know attorneys are supposed to do, here's my cases for the month. I don't know if that's being done, but I don't know where they'd be going because again, I get to this, a lot of turnover. And so it seemed over the years since I've been here that it's this person, then it's this person, then it's this person doing it. But each attorney should be submitting monthly reports saying, these are my numbers this month that can be checked. Not quarterly, not yearly, because then that's too hard to check. It takes too long to check. The court, what the court's required to do and where it stops as far as, I suppose, what the court can do is we get, number one, quarterly reports from each attorney saying that they're in compliance. Now, it doesn't give numbers. It just says, I'm in compliance with the caseload rules, period. As of this year, each attorney is now required on each and every single case that they do to put a little declaration at the bottom saying, I'm in compliance with the standards, and I know what that ultimately is setting up. That's why attorneys have to be careful with those things.
Speaking of
Counselor Chavez.
Oh.
I have a question. So what is average caseload for the attorneys?
Average or maximum?
Average and maximum?
So maximum, it was 400 last year. This year, then it's gone to 31. No, it's not at 300 yet. It equates to, it's a weird formula that the Supreme Court came up with, like 10% of each mean. So this year, it's supposed to be at 31 cases less than that. So 369, I guess, would be what those numbers would be at. Then next year, it drops down another 31 cases or whatever that mean is, getting at the 10th year to that 120 cases. I don't think our contracts are structured that way. I think the Sunnyside contracts are for 300 period. So they're contracted under those maximums. Whether they get to those numbers, I don't know.
Mr.
Like I think
Guzman,
Chris knows so.
at the end of each month, I do provide a report that is generated through our court database, and it gives a breakdown of how many cases were assigned to each attorney. Based on that report that's given to the city, the attorneys are responsible for also providing their own report that needs to be verified with the monthly report that's submitted. How that's being done, I'm not sure, because that would be at the executive level, but those monthly reports are being provided.
And the executive being City Hall, somebody at City Hall.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, and I'm with you, right? Sunnyside has a broken system with everything that we do. We don't have accountability. We don't have any procedures. It's talking about standards. We don't even have does anybody know what our adopted standard is? There's an RCW that says, RCW 10.101.030. The city is required to have adopted standards for indigent defense, including caseload limits, qualifications, and oversight. I don't think I haven't voted for any standards since I've been here. Councilor Hart, you've been here a little bit longer. Have you ever voted on the standard, for the city to operate? I don't think so. I didn't see anything.
Probably longer ago than just more recently, probably in the last 10 years sometime, I'm sure.
And I think,
But I don't know, it hasn't been addressed more recently.
and given that Washington State Supreme Court gives one direction, and then there's a different direction from the Washington State Board Association, which direction is our defense group following, right? Are they following the 10-year plan, or are they being aggressive in limiting their caseloads a lot sooner and following the other one, the WSBA? I don't know. We don't know.
Well, so the WSBA, they are the ones who proposed, and on both occasions, they proposed caseload rules to the state Supreme Court. The state Supreme Court is the one that came up with these caseloads and said courts shall do this. Cities shall do this, counties shall do this. It applies equally across the state. The WSBA didn't have any power other than lobbying for the state Supreme Court to do that. Now it's a probably a legit question, or, to ask, does ultimately the state Supreme Court have the power to kind of legislate from the bench and say, this is what we want? That's a different question. And I don't know if there's any lawsuits. My guess would be some would be forthcoming, especially when we start getting into that second year, third year, when numbers keep dropping a little bit more, and then it keeps getting costly. I'll be blunt. I was against the caseload rules, especially this second go around, because it's really limiting the power of cities to protect. I mean, is how I saw it. I've been doing this a long time, like 20 years, probably 21 years doing public defense. And there was a time when there was no caseloads that attorneys were fine. We were fine. I mean, you budget your time, you work, and sometimes you work, to be blunt, your ass off, but you were fine. I'm not a big fan of the caseload, but it's something we have to deal with. Now, what happens if a city doesn't? My guess is, remember when I said number one, the attorneys are going to, on each of their notices of parents, have to do that designation saying I'm complying with the caseload. So that now gives a case for the state to go after, and individual attorneys to try to get a little bit of money and say, oh, we could sue the city of Sunnyside for this. We could sue the city of Yakima for this. The court's involved in this. They're letting people go over numbers. So you want to be very careful about that. It's a problem. It's an issue. And if I'm acting like there's no good answers, well, there's not. I think you just end up having to deal with it at some point. Maybe the court reexamines that. I think that rule itself called for, I think at a 5-year term, saying, let's reexamine it and see if this is actually workable. And there's been a lot of outcry over it, and you might see it kind of start repealing back at that point. But,
I'm with you, right? It's Olympian. It's the Supreme Court giving us unfunded mandates for cities. And where does that leave a city? Where we have caseloads of overload, right? We had invoices come through from attorneys for 2025 for caseload overload. That money has to come out of somewhere, and unfortunately, the first pot of money that cities dig into is for the youth, for the pool, for parks and recs, right? That's the first thing that we reduce. So I think if at the same time we're able to do some of these other things, like doing the form, making sure that they do need the defense attorney, coming up with, adopt some standards, right? So that way the defense attorneys that we do have know how to operate, know what's going on, right? Another question that I had is the billing for Toppenish. Who's in charge, City Hall or you guys here?
the bidding?
Billing, because
Billing.
we bill
That's city.
Toppenish.
That's City Hall.
City Hall does the bill.
Has to be. That's where, wait, I think last year before, we were told, oh, we just learned this wasn't being billed correctly.
And it's, I'm looking at the contract right now, it's complicated, right? You got so many percentage, so many cases, it's a complicated system. So now my question to the interim city manager, these invoices that came through for the case overloads, how much are we billing that to Toppenish? How much is the contract allowing us to bill Toppenish for those extra cases? If you could find, I mean, I'm not expecting an answer right now, but
I have contacted Toppenish to warn them that there's some catch-up that's necessary, particularly with the increase to the new defense attorneys. Another thing that we are addressing is court security. And that has to be addressed because we are using city police department for court security, and that usually means overtime. So we're going to try to modify that as well. So they're cooperative. They're saying, we understand, we're in agreement with this. You just have to give us a proposal. We'll have to talk more about it.
And I did have discussion with Chief Lehman this morning
Right.
about that. And I had mentioned to him in the records that I was able to obtain for, I think it was 2025, 2024, there were expenses that were coming out of the court budget to pay for the court security. Since I think September, I don't think we followed up with it all the way, but it is a discussion that we've had. So just to clarify, there was a portion of their wages that was taken out from the court's budget.
And that's my understanding. Usually with court security reason corrections, I think there was a police officer just because nobody was available or something happened. But that for the court time, we paid a portion of that salary of that for the court time.
And Counselor.
I just have a sort of,
Go ahead.
Mayor. A minute ago or so, you mentioned how the process works as far as the billing, when you fill out the billing that goes to City Hall. You said that it was, what did you say? That it was the quarterly complaint, quarterly reports were then sent to the City Hall.
That was going to be for the cases that are assigned to each attorney each month.
Right,
Yes, those are submitted on a monthly basis.
on a monthly basis.
Yes, and provided to, the last person I was providing it to was Monica. But every finance supervisor, or director
finance
at that
super-
point
That's,
was being given those monthly reports.
okay. So that should have been showing up. It shows up where the bail goes to somebody or it's refund a bail or things like that. But I was more interested right now in the attorney's caseload.
Right.
Yeah, so how that works. But you don't have anybody that you're actually turning it into? It just happened to be that was going to Hofstetter?
Yes, today I just submitted, there was one still sitting in her box, but I gave that to somebody over in the finance department who said they would give it to Mr. Altamirano.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. Because we want to make sure that they're getting reported somehow.
Right.
We just need to know where that breakage is.
Deputy Mayor, is this something that the Finance Committee has begun discussing or plans to discuss?
I think it's something we're planning on discussing to kind of figure out how, especially how it's coming, how the reports are coming in, how they're being dispersed and being recorded, and how we're billing for them, how they're being billed.
So the first time that I saw that reporting was after our first invoice that came through for the case overload invoice. After that, that's when Monica gave us somewhat of another report. I don't remember what she had said for 2025 and why the reasoning was that we didn't catch it, right?
Yeah, it was
Is
a
it
kind of,
word-
it wasn't a very good explanation, but it would have been because there wasn't a good answer at that
Mhm.
point. So,
Mhm.
yeah, but that is something we are looking into, so that conversation is really important.
I will say this, because this was the recent, and Senquist said this is what's being discussed. So to try and limit the caseloads and trying to limit the costs, Mr. Everett, the prosecutor, was amending suspended thirds, which are criminal charges, to infractions. That's probably still met with resistance. You're always going to have one, the police or other sides having disagreements over that, but it really was to save costs. I think what ended up happening and what the court found out about is attorneys were still counting those as cases at the arraignment stage of things, which probably leads me to believe that also what's happening is attorneys are counting those cases at arraignment, then it's going to somebody else, and that same case is counting as a case.
So
to-
maybe case.
Right.
Because we wondered about that, about the arraignments, if that was a separate, and I think when we talked to, those just recently, we had a conversation about that. So, yeah, we don't need that to be happening.
A case, so a case is a case is a case. A case is through completion, of.
You get the case,
Trial.
go all the way
It's
through.
resolving. It doesn't happen in stages, so the arraignment is one case and then the same case, but it's not at the arraignment stage. Also, those things though are, what is a case is a creature of a contract. So I suppose a city is always, I've never been privy to those defense contracts, but a city is free to say, well, we're counting as a case, one case of arraignment and one case is this. As a practice pointer, a city needs to be very, very careful and specific about those contracts, as any contracts.
Yeah.
You are dealing with attorneys on the other end of it that can be nitpicky about those. Going back to caseload counting and those things, I would always think a city or a county would want kind of a database or an Excel spreadsheet every month about these are the case numbers, these are the cases.
Mhm.
And then you can see like, wait, the same case is popping up on here, and then you have that answer. I think it's just a matter of not enough oversight and not enough probably being required under those contracts as far as.
Counselor Vasquez has a question and then I'll come to you.
Yeah, and like you said, you going back to the caseloads, the attorney caseload, you said that max right now would be 369 around
About
that
that,
max.
yes.
And is this monthly?
Oh, no, per
Annual-
year, per year.
Per year? Okay, per year. And then you also said that you get like monthly, you see the monthly reports, right, of cases that are being signed to these attorneys. More or less, do you see that they are hitting their max? Is it pretty close to max or more or less? Like if you had to give an estimate?
That's the tricky part. is
Yeah.
The court's not allowed to be in a position where they can say, okay, I don't have the ability to come back and say, okay, this is what your numbers are. I believe each contract does indicate for each attorney that they are responsible for maintaining their caseload. So if they're getting close to a caseload, it is their responsibility to contact the city and let them know, hey, I'm getting close. Let's figure out what the plan of attack is going to be there.
Okay. Yeah, and like you said, Judge, like maybe it's just the fact of like figuring out an operation or like a system, but we definitely need to like have something where we can see those numbers.
No, I agree with that. And then, it goes that I always say, contracts need to be reexamined. However, again, we're in an attorney shortage.
Yeah.
So the minute places start doing that, it's like, I'm just going here. And that's not gonna go away. Then you're left with
Mm,
no attorneys.
Yeah. And understand- we
Contract, I guess
understand
contracts that, why an attorney would want to contract for 300, and I'm sure that was the push, because then it allows them a portion of time to do private stuff.
that.
And it doesn't put them up against the cap of now 369 cases a year. Because at that level, what the state says, which again, I guess makes no sense, is, oh, you can't work anymore. You can't do anything. You can't do any private stuff outside of it. However, if the contracts, which it sounds like they kind of do, cap, say, okay, you do 300. However, if you do more than 300, we're paying you 150% of the value of a case, then that's going to give incentive to kind of get to that level, because they start getting the more.
So just to clarify, because I've read different articles, for 2025, the caseload per attorney was 400?
2025, it was still 400 because this new round of limits hadn't hit yet.
So.
For misdemeanors.
Yeah, and that's what we handle here. So then, and basing it off of your clip up there for 2025, we show 1,770 cases with 5 attorneys. That should have given us 2,000 cases. So there shouldn't be a reason for a case overload in 2025. So then they billed us 2 different attorneys for case overload 2025.
That's, yeah, I mean, we're not privy to.
Yeah, no, I
mean, that's things that there should be oversight, especially when something begins and.
mhm.
Counselor Cesati has a comment.
Just a comment for Jorge, and I think that's where, like you mentioned, there's the billing that gets submitted, and I don't know if it's the finance department, supervisor director's job to cross-reference the cases with the billing, because I think that would help out a lot on exactly why they're charging, the overload when the numbers are not numbering. The math is not mathing, I guess.
But then that's one of the reasons that I pulled that item from the consent agenda, because I wanted to know the numbers. We're here to approve, 20-some $1,000 and not have any sort of backup or any sort of numbers in front of me, I just, that's the reason I pull it. And, we're 2 months after that. I know it's already been paid. I know that the city, I wish that we had a system to where, we approve the consent agenda, then the checks get sent out, but unfortunately, it's not working out like that. But, we do need a better system. We do need more accountability. And it shouldn't matter the turnover if there's some sort of, set procedure to where the new person comes, okay, this is the procedure that's been happening. This is the procedure that we're gonna follow. It shouldn't matter who's in that position.
So what's the proposal? How could we work towards that? In terms of implementation?
Well, this is largely a finance department component. And I guess at one time we did have some oversight on that and personnel changes. That was eliminated or diminished. And as Troy has said, there's a tipping point where they could just say, well, I'm not going to work with you anymore, so I'm just going to go down the road. And now we're in trouble. So it is a tight spot here between giving them what we think is right and them basically demanding what they're going to do it for. And so I'm not sure that there's an easy way of solving that under the current labor or attorney shortage, which I've had other attorneys say that is with AI, that might start changing here in the future.
I guess AI will probably change all of our.
Yeah.
But in the short term, this is the life. In the long term, so I'm not dismissing the question, but when we do have a kind of a rebuilding of our finance department, which we're in the process of doing right now, that this will be an item that will be included in that so that we can have some better double checking accountability of court cases as they relate to actual fees that are being charged.
And I think it's also a product of telling attorneys, this is what's required of you. Usually those are written out in a contract. This is what you shall submit. And I don't know if it's in those or not, but the double, any double counting of cases, like, wait, I counted this as an arraignment because it's mine and this, that shouldn't be happening at all. That's giving 2 cases for 1 case. Now, most places will, and I think the contract does this anyways, to be honest, will, pay, this is what you get for an arraignment day or an arraignment hearing. And so that's what the attorneys are doing. Now, I will say this, that usually the attorneys come in twos. And there doesn't need to be 2 attorneys. So your city's paying for 2 attorneys to sit there on each arraignment docket when all there needs to be is 1. I don't know how it got that way, that it's just, the 2 sets attorney works in tandems. So on Thursdays, every other Thursday, you have Mr. Andrews. And then on,
No, he's every Thursday. Mr. Andrews is every.
every Thursday. As far as arraignments, as far as docket, it's every other Thursday. The, every Tuesday is either the McKinleys or Mr. Geisler and then his partner. For the arraignment calendar, they usually come in 2s. And so, I mean, my guess is they're both billing out double time for those. But I don't know what their contracts are either at the end.
And the question is it really necessary to have 2 there?
No.
So,
I mean, no, I
no.
think so, but.
I pulled one also and it had, I asked what was going on with it because it had everything exactly the same all the way across the line item. And the only thing different was the husband and wife's middle initial.
That was the same pay.
Everything was the same amount for both. You say they come in twos, is that what we're doing? Is they're paying 2 attorneys the same amount for the same cases, the same?
I hope not.
Contracts are,
Well, it sure looked like it to me. That's why I pulled it.
contracts are written individually. So,
That's what I keep hearing.
Right,
How
so
did it
the
come out
fee is
exactly to
exactly-
the penny.
Now, the fee is the same, should be the same. It's a retainer that's averaging 25 cases per year at $300 or $377 now.
And the 25,000 we spent for 2025, where did that come from too? I mean, that was incredible to see that come across the table. I mean, it's like,
It sounds like how it's billed a little bit different. So it sounds like the city pays not in per case where you submit your cases for a particular month, but it's billed at the 300 for the entire year in
Right,
12
so you-
monthly installments. So I guess if you.
300 times 377 divided by 12, that's the retainer every month.
Now, if it's the same amount, it tells you that they're both charging out the arraignment. I mean, they're both,
Mhm.
that he's paying for 2 attorneys.
And so the idea is that there's some of this action going on with the amount of cases per month. It's not an exact 25, but that's what the average is. Of 300 divided by 12 is 25. So some months they might have more, some might have less. And so then there's a true up at the end of the year when they've exceeded that number. And that's multiplied by the case rate.
I mean, I guess I'm, because I have been getting into contract negotiations. I'm trying not to, but that's probably not the best system because then if you're under at the end of the year, you just got,
Well,
that full 300.
there is a qualifier in there that if we checked it and they actually did less, then they owe us back.
But then that requires the checking. That's where yeah, that's one of the reasons.
And more recently, this council voted to increase their pay. And that's the reason I voted no, because I didn't have a full contract in front of me. And Mr. Haley, I haven't received the full contract from your office for the city, the defense attorneys. I really think that, going forward, council really looks at what you guys, we're voting and not just vote just because they're saying, we need an increase and there's a limit of attorneys, right? Because then just everybody's going to come to the city with the handout and I want more.
Well, what they were addressing was parity among the attorneys. So one attorney was being paid higher than the other 4. And so they were saying, hey, what gives here? Why is that attorney making more? And so if the attorney that brought the issue up was saying, listen, if you don't give me parity, then I'm just going to go down the road and do business with another county. Well, that would have been, catastrophic for our caseload. So we were really kind of stuck at that point to give them parity. So reviewing the contract wouldn't have really done anything because there's nothing in the contract that addresses that we could change. It was just saying, the rate was not the same as the others, and we think we should have the same rate. So that's what we did. With the provision that at the end of this year, we're going to relook at all those and make some corrections and some clarity, specifically defining what a caseload is versus an arraignment, and make sure that we have some real specific points in there that can guide us through this process beyond this year. But that's how we got to that decision. It wasn't necessarily a fun decision, but we didn't have a lot of other choices. We didn't.
I will say that what happened there, and it was, I know the attorney you're talking about, but it was the then city manager just kind of was asked and said, okay, here's your contract, here's your raise. So not many people were involved in that process.
But the good news is for us though, is those contracts with 5 of them.
4 of them.
4 of them are up for renewal this year. So maybe we can have go through the process to do a better job of seeing just how many cases, what the bottom line is, of course, the amount and all that, but we're really interested in keeping track of them not going over their caseloads if possible, because then we don't have to pay them so much.
well, we don't get any information to go over anything.
Well,
I mean,
that's
we're
the
just
thing.
we're handed the bill and say, okay, everybody vote for this. And then you started out your presentation with, be real careful about asking questions because that could be real dangerous.
Well, not questions. Let me give you some context. So in Yakima, I run a law firm and I tried to hire, I can't hire anybody. Nobody can hire anybody. I couldn't hire people for 130,000 plus plus a bonus. So 140,000. Mr. Everett tried to get somebody out of law school, and even from law school. Mr. Everett recently tried to get somebody out of law school. They wanted 130,000 plus a bonus, plus full benefits. And so he couldn't hire anybody to help him out either. So that's kind of the backdrop of why I say that. I think it's good to ask questions. I guess you can only cater so much, I suppose. But just be prepared, and it's like he just said, the immediate answer was, I'm just gonna go somewhere else. People have those options right now. These attorneys have these options.
So you,
But you have to, you have to monitor these things, and they have to be required, and they should be required under their contract to provide monthly reports. I can tell you the things to look for. It's the arraignment, doubling those. It's also always inevitably doubling up of cases once there's a warrant and somebody appears again. Is this now counting again? Is that person being rearraigned? Are they counting it as a case again because they're at the arraignment for this person so you can see how those numbers can start drastically going down. But it all starts with information and requiring information. And no matter which public defense attorney goes where, every jurisdiction is going to require that stuff. So they're not going to get out of that. So I don't think
Counselor Galvan, and who's in the finance? It's Counselor Cesati, yourself.
Yeah.
Is this something that you can arrange
We can start.
to Leo? Or is it Monica? So just to do some cross-referencing.
I think with Leo taking a little bit more charge, it might fall under Leo.
Yeah. Because he's also talked about.
An
we talked
option.
About that too, at one of the meetings we were talking about the defense attorneys and so forth. Because we did ask about the different arraignments and how that breaks down. It was like, what? That's just one case. That's one person. Why are you charging me for a brand new case? Every time he shows up in court, I have to pretend that's a new person? That's what it was feeling like. Yeah.
Usually, a couple things happen with arraignments to get around those caseloads and even counting as a case. Either paying somebody hourly to do the arraignments, having a dedicated arraignment person,
Mhm.
paying for each arraignment, which the city is, but then they're also somehow it's turning around and then cases and that, that per docket amount. There's very rare occasions when something at arraignment can count as a case, and there's just one occasion when it resolves. If
Mhm.
somebody ever pled, typically we're not pleading people at arraignment, and I've had it 0 times here, but that's really the only time because you just completed the case from beginning to end. And so that's the one occasion where the state would say, oh, that's a case.
Well, I think that's something, to your question, Mayor. I think that is something that the Finance Committee really wants to dig into as we're coming into these new contract language, just to kind of verify what it is we want to look for. And we might call on you for extra help on that.
No,
And Vanessa
that's
as well.
fine. Like I said, I try to give as much as I can general information.
Sure,
Don't
general's
really
good.
Go too far
The
afield.
contract, yeah.
Because we are trying to deal with these court rules that
Mhm.
at us all the time. But yeah, if anybody has questions, just call me, email me.
Thank you.
Everybody knows
Very
what to
good.
do.
And I think
I
I'll
will
go
answer
to.
it. Maybe
Counselor
it's
Vasquez.
More constructive.
No, I just had a question. Did we finish the presentation? I think we were.
You know what? We got off topic
we're
and never.
barely,
did. I
like,
probably should have
halfway.
Waited on that
Mhm.
defense thing. I guess I wanted to go into one more thing because at least it's what I heard and I'll be upfront with all this stuff. I think somebody had said, well, fine, just close the court. You can't do that. A city needs a court. And so there's 2 options for a city, really. Number 1 is have their own court, or number 2, have the county. And it's not that the county just takes it over free of charge. They bill what they want to.
Mhm.
One of the big burgeoning costs over the last couple of years is the probation department. So if you look at that, probation services skyrocketed. Was it 5-6 times as high? One here. That's because a lot of places contract with Yakima County Probation, and they decided we're not getting enough. We want 5 or 6 times as much. And you see that on probation services. I guarantee if Sunnyside didn't have a jail and just contracted with the county, you would see that at the county jail at some point would be, oh, we want like triple the money now because they gotcha. Court's no different. So, you know, you have to have a municipal court. Toppenish used to have their own municipal court, then Sunnyside took it over. Now, I will say that they got in trouble because they didn't do it the right way because it takes months and months and months to get all that process going. There's statutes that apply to it. You can't just say, oh, we're done. They're handling, which is what they did. I've talked to the county, by the way, because I always do my homework. And so I talked to the county about, well, what if you guys took it over? All they would ultimately provide is a judge, but at our caseload right now and what I'm dealing with and what I'm trying to manage and doing well, I think is they would want one full-time judge, if not a judge and a commissioner, if not two judges, and they wouldn't provide a courtroom. They would still use this courtroom. They would still use everything else. All you'd be doing is tripling up the judge costs at the end of the day. So that's not really an option, but I just brought it up because somebody said, sometimes people think, oh, we'll save whatever our budget is. We'll just get rid of a court. Yeah, you can't do that. You have a city.
I do that.
Hey, does anybody else have any questions? I knew as soon as I started talking and as soon as I got.
Well,
off
is that particular PowerPoint is available if we want to just take a look at it and maybe it's in our packet and we can just give you some calls if we go.
Yeah, sure. A better question is, it's probably more beneficial if somebody one-on-one talks to me about these things and very direct and.
I had a question on the grant funding. Does that include both the cities, Toppenish and Sunnyside? And is it a yearly application that the courts have to fill out or submit?
Yes, it's a yearly, and I think you have to do one every quarter as well.
For the
Or
OPD grant funding?
midterm, yes.
We have to reapply every. I
Well, it
think it's
re-ups every year, but you also have to do a midterm
a quarterly
questionnaire.
report,
Is it quarterly as
mid-year
well?
report, I'm sorry.
Mid-year one. It's always the same. I think it's capped out. Why you keep saying 66,000, it's capped out at 66,000. There's not a lot of funding with OPD, and you brought it up earlier that, you know, they pass these caseloads and this huge public defense costs, but there's no funding for it. Yes, the state has not increased OPD's grant money. There was a bill to require the state, there was a lawsuit, there was a case where they're trying to get the state to say that the state had to help out with defense costs. That was struck down. There was a bill in the legislature to kind of fund this, what the state Supreme Court wanted, and the state of Washington punted and said, no, we're not gonna. So it's a fight between the state Supreme Court and the legislature, state of Washington.
No, I get it. It's frustrating. You guys are trying to do the best that you can for a city, and you know, there's only so much you can do.
Oh, to be honest, I've never liked it because I've been doing it a long time, and to me, any kind of caseloads is telling me that, you know what, we have to have caseloads on you and caps on you because you're just not as smart as private attorneys who can do 10 times that amount. You just really need some caps on you, and that's why one of the big reasons I never liked it.
Mr. Ganavan, it's every 2 years for that grant application.
You have to resubmit every 2 years, but do like a yearly report. You said like
I believe it's, I
Midterm.
believe, so once a year,
once a year report.
no, twice a year.
Yeah, I thought it was every
Twice a
6
year.
months.
Okay.
It's a shorter report, but there's a.
Okay.
Counselor
You know, so with the grant money, I do see that it helps also like improve quality of like interpreting services for the defenders or clients. So I'm assuming like a portion, a good chunk of this money goes directly to them. Has that been working out smoothly from what you've seen?
Well, they have separate grants for language assistance. I mean,
This one's
That's-
all in one. It's.
oh, did you
qual-
include it in there?
Yeah, because that's what our grant, it falls under quality of public defense services as well as interpreting services.
So that's more than OPD's
Mhm.
public defense grant. It's also including that language service.
And I guess my question is more like interpreting services. I'm assuming they're required or requested very often here. And has that been working out pretty smooth?
I think so. I mean,
I just received the invoice and send it to accounts payable. So,
Okay, okay.
I mean, it
Yeah.
can run from, I've seen reports where it's like 4 people have been requested for interpreting services up to at least 12 people. So it just kind of varies month to month.
Okay.
But they're supposed to do it independently and coordinate that with the interpreting services company.
What she's talking about is, so we have the court interpreter and we pay for those services, but apart from that, then you have defense attorneys billing for those services as well outside, and so it should go,
And we've
hopefully
seen
does,
those
Okay,
go into.
Yeah, we've seen those
2025
in
on that
other-
budget.
okay.
on our
Um,
register.
Some of this, I will say that I was looking at the budget numbers earlier and at times, I guess I couldn't make head to tails and we were told that, oops, this was going in the wrong place. Now we corrected it and it's here. And that's where a lot of the chaos was lying. And so it's hard to look at this and somewhat get an accurate accounting, I guess.
Okay. Well, thank you,
Thank
and
you.
sorry that we didn't allow you to finish your presentation.
Oh, it should be, Miss Enquist put it together, so.
Yeah. So it seems
Might
like the
want you to
finance
watch all
committee
of it.
will be coming together
We'll be,
and trying to troubleshoot this. If any of us have any questions, you prefer a one-on-one discussion, so any one of us can reach out to you.
Just ask me questions.
Okay.
Either me or Miss Enquist, if it's questions about the court, if it's questions about me or what I do, if it's questions about public defense.
We'll follow up
Trying
on
to
that.
make this as smooth as possible, and anybody that knows me knows that I want things to get done and I'm efficient as humanly possible. So,
What's the average cost of that,
of who?
of meeting with you?
Eh,
I know you have billable hours
It
to
comes-
turn
it
in,
comes
right?
With my contract, I don't double up.
there you go. That's,
Okay.
that's the right.
Good answer.
That's the right answer. I like that answer.
All right,
Thanks, Troy.
nice meeting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judge and Vanessa. Thank you.
It's next on our hip. parade.
Okay, moving forward. MRJN is not gonna happen today. I think you, Mr. Haley, you said you're putting it on the next workshop?
Correct. I think it's June 3rd or something, is the next workshop
Third is a Wednesday, so maybe the first.
in June, the first workshop in June.
The June 3rd is a Wednesday.
So,
So I'm assuming it'd be
so then
June
that
1st.
Monday. First?
Yes, June 1st.
Whatever the first Monday is. Okay, so since that won't be happening, we'll go down to what is E, consideration of policy revisions to residency requirements. And I'll
Is there-
let Mr. Haley.
I had a larger discussion with the mayor on this, and so in addressing one item that was brought up at a last council meeting regarding residency as it relates to committees, the city attorney mentioned that there's some ambiguity in that as to define what committees might have some boundaries as it relates to residency. So I submitted here some issues that have come up with other cities as they've tried to define what residency means. And there's I suppose, a strict interpretation or there's a broader interpretation. So the second half is saying some items that we might consider as it relates to creating a policy, as it relates to what residency means and how that's defined. But in further talking with the mayor, there are other items under committee assignments as it relates to how's voting members of council, who sits as chairs and so forth. And it might require a larger revision. So it was proposed that maybe a subcommittee of the council could be created to review several of these so that we're bundling them all together and having them all reviewed and having a little bit more continuity among all of the committee assignments and responsibilities. So that's where we could leave it here, or we could go into some detail that I presented, whatever you prefer.
Well, I'd like to know what you gathered, but this came off the heels of a conversation I was actually having with Councilor Vasquez, I think last week. I was doing out of a conversation from the Rules Committee, we were doing a quick audit of some of the boards and commissions. And I wrote down some of the existing vacancies on some of these boards, and that's not reflected on our website. So I got a call from someone wanting to submit an application to the Parks and Recs, but only saw like a youth vacancy. But after talking to the chair, Amy Rubio, she mentioned there's 3 vacancies, including the youth. So there's one school district staff vacancy available, one general vacancy available, and a youth vacancy available. And then there's like 2 on planning. I emailed Mr. Haley. I think I copied you, Councilor Vasquez, on that since I had the discussion with you. And then per my discussion with Councilor Vasquez, all members of the Economic Development Commission are coming up for renewal in June. Yes, so in the email, I told Mr. Haley if we can try to work on updating these vacancies to reflect accuracy, especially given that one commission is about to have all members expired. And then in having these conversations, there's been some confusion with some of the chairs of these, for example, Amy Rubio mentioned that I believe it was you, Hector, that maybe showed up, and then Councilor Chavez showed up, and there was some conversation about who chairs that committee or that board. And in LTAC, for example, there's a chair, right? In the Climate Resiliency Board, you're considered a member as well, because I think there was trouble trying to fill in that board at the time, so they considered her position a member.
And with voting rights. Right?
With voting rights. Parks and Recs, Councilor Chavez, you're just a liaison with no chair permission or authority or voting authority.
Weirdo.
So it's not cohesive at all. The language around, the SMC language on the existing boards and commissions is kind of all over the place, and it really has given way to a lot of confusion. You sit on the economic development. Are you a member?
So I'm also like liaison, so I have no voting rights. However, recently I'm like the new chair right now, only up until June, until we get new members to apply, and then we get to vote on who's going to be chair. But the only issue with that is that I have been able to witness that a lot of these new chair positions, they actually come in fairly new without any knowledge on how to run a meeting. And they do feel very like it's a big task, and they have no tools. Like the city gives them no tools. They're kind of just given a title, but they're not really given the education or the steps on like what I need to do this correct, or how do I do roll call? And Julia Hart's also been liaison on that committee, and I know that she's seen that it's been a little bit challenging. And I was also speaking to Mayor, and I was telling her that I do believe that moving forward, even like with getting new chairs in all of these committees, it would be very nice if we can get any resource, like free resources from like MRSC, anything from AWC, any free resource that's at our hands, to kind of create like a workshop for the new chairs, new members, to do kind of like a welcome session. Because even coming into these boards myself, and I know Mayor, we started coming into these positions, and we didn't really know how to start, and we felt like we were left out in the dark, and we had to learn everything ourselves. So even having that experience for ourselves, I really wouldn't want new members, especially volunteers who are donating their time, to have to navigate so much just to volunteer and just to do work. But I think that we should be putting something together so that all of this can work more smooth.
Mhm. Yeah, the language in these SMCs is all over the place. So for example, like adding residency to this, like there's a definition around residency, and then it still leaves off, well, at the discretion of the council.
Mhm.
And then, for example, the point of conversation last time was the Climate Advisory Board, and it lists like a few components of who should be filling in this board. And it doesn't list residency requirements. So on top of having conversations around making these SMCs a lot more unilateral, for example, or a lot more cohesive. Like, you know, the residency could also be a point of conversation on this because all of these are all over the place. And the conversation ended with, could we establish a subcommittee to start looking over the language and get it to a place that reflects where the council wants to take this moving forward? Since I believe it's gonna take some time to delve into this and then bring it back to council and red line and add and take away, so forth.
Is it a subcommittee? Is that like a sub motion?
No. It's not that.
Just curious about that. Now, you say,
Do you have your fun meter on tonight?
no, because we're not having fun yet.
Sorry, Counselor Galvan had his hand up. Are you?
Yeah, so
I'm still talking, sorry. That was just one question. I'll be done in just a minute and I will, you just said that this is all over the place and I've read it over and over again. I don't see where you're talking about it. I don't see where it's all over the place. It says very clearly, unless otherwise provided, no advisory board or commission may contain a majority of non-resident members. The ones that came up at that that's what it says, and we are we're not even following our own rules. I don't see where that's out of place or all over the place. So I don't, and then you mentioned something else about the city makes a decision. Where does it say any of that? I don't see in that.
Again, probably why we need to do it.
I'll go to Counselor Galvan. He had his hand.
is there a reason that the rules committee isn't handling this?
It could be the rules committee. I wanted to open it up to see what y'all wanted to do with this. Counselor Vasquez did mention a subcommittee, so if that was an idea, we thought I'd bring it back and figure out what it is the collective wanted to do.
And another thing on the chairs, I know that LTAC is the only legal requirement to have a council serve as a chair, but I really do believe that maybe having the council member in that committee or board serve as a chair. You know, there is resources, Councilor Vasquez, there's AWC, MRSC, and it's just as much information as you as a counselor want to intake. You know, there's free courses on there. Anybody can take, not just a council member, anybody, you know, the public can take. So that would be my suggestion is, if possible, maybe the counselors serve as a chair, just to maybe learn how to handle a meeting. Eventually, you know, one of you is going to be a chair, a mayor up here one of these days. And I think that experience really does help when you're, you know, put to the task.
There
Yeah.
was a couple hands.
Yes. So, you know, Mayor, you know, Counselor Galvan. So I actually volunteered myself to become chair for that committee. I volunteered myself because everyone kind of they were looking at each other, right? Like, wait, who's going to be chair? So I just volunteered myself. And I definitely, personally, I enjoyed running the meeting. You do get experience and it's pretty nice. However, I was just kind of like talking more on the basis of moving forward, right? Moving forward with all these committees, there are people who, you know, who get to be the chair of these committees and have no experience of being on council, have no experience with any OPMA or anything of Robert's Rules of Orders, no experience whatsoever. And there's no resources. And I have received feedback from many of these volunteers that they would have appreciated, you know, maybe a packet, maybe some direction, some guidance, and not just leave it heavily on a council member to always have to like do or step up. And that's what I did. And I'm enjoying it right now, but I just mean, and you know, and maybe that's another conversation. What if a council member should chair maybe in the beginning to help the upcoming chair, right? Kind of like give some direction. Maybe that would be nice as well. But I did talk about creating a subcommittee just because, you know, to share a little bit more insight. We were also talking about how these positions that are actually going to be expiring the 1st of June, they actually served for 4 years. And 4 years is a big commitment. You know, we are up here for 4 years, and you know, you guys are barely not even halfway in 1 year. And sometimes when you volunteer to do something or you're ready to do something, you don't really take for account like the responsibility, the time. And some of these positions are there permanently for 4 years. And what if, and then, you know, throughout year 2 comes, year 3 comes, and then some of these members stop showing up. Some of these members, a family emergency occurred and they're not able to donate or volunteer their time. And there's just so many things that have affected these committees that has not been able to, that hasn't been of help for the community, for the city. And I do think that maybe even going back and like streamlining, maybe even the year amounts of like how long these people would be sitting on there. And I was kind of even giving an example of 4 years is a lot. What if we divide it in half? You know, 2 years. And if they want to continue to serve, then they just reapply. And we were also discussing the topic of many of these people on these boards have been on these boards for many years, and even like maybe kind of giving preference to people who want to come on in, because I have also seen some members who have been wanting to become members of certain groups, but the same people reapply, and then it's kind of like the ones who reapply get kind of like dibs sometimes, and not letting new people come on in, which
Sometimes
is
having fresh faces is
which is very important to bring in new people so we get new ideas and maybe a new direction. So there's just like a lot that has been just ignored, and a lot that's just been the same, and it's been staying the same. And I think that maybe creating a subcommittee, which I definitely am very interested of being a part of, these conversations, is very, very needed.
Mhm. Oh, and then,
And that this was just to share some insight of our conversation.
thank you. And then, just, something you missed, and then I'm gonna come to you. I know you had your, there's no language, or at least I didn't see any language in there about how many, if there's a limit to how many committees or boards people can participate in. So I didn't see, along with term limits, also committee or commission limits. Go ahead.
I think a good idea would also be it's our council, maybe jot down what we want to see. Everybody, because we all have different views, different perspectives of things. And you'd be surprised at how much we can come together and see that we have a lot of our own same things of, hey, maybe a new face, maybe somebody that's has business here in Sunnyside, just different things. I think that would be a good idea if we all jot it down, maybe put it out on our and table it at some time.
Councilor Galvan, you had your hand up?
Yeah, but I forgot. I lost my train.
You had your hand up?
I do.
Okay, somebody had that.
I don't know how, just jump in there. One of the things I'm thinking about too, and the subcommittee would be a good place to start. I think it really needs to start at rules. And then I think a larger conversation before we go to rules, before we start a subcommittee, before we do that, I think we need to sit down and have the strategic meeting and have it there and say, what do we want our boards and commissions to look like?
Yeah.
Do we want, if you have more than one person, you know, I have me on this committee and I have me on this committee, and I'm me on this committee. Am I not going to be influencing everything to be just like what I want? So if you have just, if you're only, and it's really difficult, I've got to say, to try to serve as a committee member on more than one. You know, that's why we're just supposed to be liaisons and occasionally a chair, as council members. But I'm also talking as far as volunteers wanting to be on more than one committee. It's lovely and God bless them, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to keep focus on one committee. But I think we should do that at some sort of strategic plan meeting where we could just talk about some of these ordinances that we've been talking about with the business of residency requirements, or how we want to do that, who's going to be the chair. Those things have been set a long time ago and they are due for a review. And I think but we need to really donate some actual time to it. So that's why I'd kind of like to do a retreat on it and just that one topic.
And even like a lot of,
Those SMCs.
yeah, and like how Julia's saying, a lot of that language is outdated and it's not very specific. There's a lot of room for confusion within a lot of those.
You don't want to make it too strict because you want to give yourself a little bit of flexibility, but it's time for that flexibility to have a reexamination. I totally agree on that.
Mhm.
Okay,
So
so what do you want to do?
how do we want to move with updating and editing this to reflect what we want to do? Go ahead.
I think that making this plan's great. We should start with number one and start working our way down and look at each item. When I was first looking at some of these, I thought, well, this one's pretty good already. Should we move on or should we change something in there? There was the ones that I was looking at first were the ones that were changed by a previous administration, and I noticed that, and I did consult some other people about it, but I noticed that the changes that were made changed and cut out voices from these people and put just what they wanted. All the real estate contracts will stop at my desk, as an example.
Mhm.
So the things like that, to me, I don't know if that works for me, but I think if we start at the top, the first one I see on here is citizen advisory boards and commissions created.
That was actually a ordinance that was, I think, one of the first things we had to have.
I have
Yeah.
copies of them.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you look at that and you say, well, maybe some of this wording is, like you say, outdated, and we should look at it, maybe tune it up a little bit. But every time we have a workshop, dedicate the lion's share of that workshop to doing nothing but looking at these and fixing them, because there's a lot to do there. I
think-
yield back.
Can I just bounce in on what he's saying? I think, redlining, going through and like we do redlining things and saying, okay, is this really what we want to say? Is this pertinent for the way we're doing business today? I think if we did that, we could bring it back and then go forward, making any changes. If we were all looking at it, that would make it a little bit better too. I like the idea of being able to plug it into a workshop, where we're just gonna work on advisory committees this week. And then we're gonna work on commissions. And then the planning commission is a whole nother egg. It's a whole nother omelet. It's a force within itself. So, that's a different one you gotta look at,
That's gonna come up real soon.
Yeah, it's gonna come up too, so.
But if you look at number two,
Mhm.
excuse me for interrupting.
No.
If you look at number two, governing law, every one of these has to be in line with RCWs.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah. And there
we
are,
have to go slow and take a look at it and say,
and there are RCWs.
can you even say that? Does it align? And for that, I feel like we need some legal advice on a lot of this stuff, and I wouldn't touch it until we did have that, just to.
Just the others, and if I may, one of the other things too is looking like George did here, talking about the MRS.
MRSC.
Talking about that, and because they have a lot of that language too, and we could use them as a
It's all-
resource.
They're just a wealth of
Yeah,
information.
yeah.
So am I hearing that the way that you all want to proceed with the initial review and amendments or redlining is bringing some of these back to a workshop and looking at it together versus this coming to the Rules Committee?
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, and I was about to say, I guess it's up to all of us. I don't know how we all feel about that, but I do hear, like Counselor Chavez says, maybe we should all jot down our ideas, and maybe there's a lot that we all have in common on what we want to see, like taking like these committees towards a new direction. So if everyone's up to it, I mean, it's gonna be work, but it's work that hasn't been done.
We could be a committee of seven.
Mr. Haley, is this something that like each council member, like if there's certain ideas that they have that they can email you directly and this would help you prep the agenda for that given workshop?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I kind of broached the subject here, so I'm just throwing it out there saying, should we look at this? And I hear you saying, yeah, we should. And I was just dialing in on one of them. But then as you discussed, there's several more that need to be addressed. So I'm just floating the subject out there, and it sounds like it's a topic we want to address.
I think so. Just like any of the
Agreeable.
others.
It's either now or never, right?
Really,
Is there anybody who objects to this?
let's do it.
The company that holds these and makes the changes to these, I forget which company it is, but they govern this, and once they change it, it's like, there you go. Now you have your SMCs.
What
was that?
What wizard are you talking about?
Well, when you change if you have an SMC and you change it, they are the ones that reword it and change it. You have to submit it for them, but then they change it, and then it becomes part of your city documentation. This one won't be there anymore. It'll say what our little
Or
group of seven came up with.
We've done a bunch of stuff on that when we were doing rules and procedure.
Yes.
Remember, George?
If you change your CMC or SMC, it's going to be done by an ordinance, and the attorney is going to draft the language for that ordinance to change.
There's one company that actually switches things over and keeps a record of each one. And you have to apply
Yeah. Yeah.
publishing, something public, code publishing. And then they hold the record of it also that you made that change. That way anybody in Sunnyside can look at that and say, hey,
It's on our website, right? Yeah.
I yelled back.
Whatever,
That's-
that's nitty gritty. We're trying to just set up a,
Okay.
Is there anything else that you need, Mr. Haley, or
For tonight?
anything you wanted to add? I know you said that you had.
No, I'm giving you a financial report that just was done today. Monica told me today that she has cleaned up 2024, so that's records of 24. So she is targeting, I think, the end of May, maybe early June to finish 25. But this is a transition period with our software, with Springbrook, and introduced all sorts of complications. Took a lot of work for them to kind of sort through and compile it. But here's the final numbers for 24. Doesn't tell you where we're at now because she's working on that. So, but just to give you a hooray, she got it done for 24. There's where we stand for last year. And then I just wanted to affirm that making progress on attorney search. My goal is to have 3 attorneys to choose from. My authority allows this decision to come through my office, through my research and evaluation, which I will bring to the council then for contract approval. The city finances and the city clerk is starting and I use the word apprentice so that you could know that she's still has a lot of training to go through. Our apprentice city clerk is scheduled to start May 27th.
oh,
She will then be a city employee and qualify for a boot camp, as they call it, for city clerks that's put on by the Washington Clerks Association. And that'll be a week-long activity in, I think, Tacoma. Yes, Raymond?
So you said she's starting on the 27th, but won't be here for another week, correct? Because of her, okay.
She has to be a city employee to go to this thing, and this event is held once a year, and it just happens to be in June. So, we got her squeezed in as a city employee so that she can attend.
Good.
So she will be, she won't be here, but in the meantime, we have interlocal agreement with the city of Toppenish, who are providing us guidance and clerk work. Heidi Riojas is helping us with that. She's also assisting us on public records requests and kind of guiding us through clerk activities. She has a computer that gives her access to the city, and so she can do work from her desk in Toppenish. It's really helpful. Yeah, it's thanks to Toppenish for helping us out. They're also providing a resource through their attorney, because we don't have an attorney to review an attorney contract. So they're providing that service as well on our behalf.
Counselor Galvan?
Well, I think he answered my question. That was my concern as to who was doing the city clerk job right now, because I know that if we miss a request, it could be $25,000 in fines that we could get. So I
Right,
just want to make
so-
sure that we do have somebody that's going through the emails and doing the public records.
Right.
I guess the initial response for now.
I'm monitoring the previous city clerk's emails, so I send those off to Gambino, and I believe that they're also coming directly to Heidi. Is that right as well?
Heidi now has access to our public record system, and she is now monitoring those and responding to some of them.
Right.
Heidi?
So Heidi Riojas of Toppenish,
Along with Cabino.
along with Gambino.
And he's over to fire
He's in the
station.
fire
He
station.
told me at dinner he wouldn't do that job.
Knowing how hard it is.
He did get Citizen of the Year or whatever award for
Yeah,
it.
Whatever
he did.
you know. I told him he can't just lay it on his
I
laurels.
did my best to talk him into it, but he wouldn't touch it.
I'm got a couple of quick questions.
Oh, thank you. So there's nothing else. We can move on to the final portion of of today's agenda, which is public comment.
While he's getting that, are we going to do agenda on Thursday this week? For next week?
There's no council meeting next week. There's no
Yes,
council.
there is. Yes, there is.
Oh, there
On
is.
the
Oh, my
11th.
goodness.
Hang on, girl.
Yes,
So 9 o'clock.
I think it's on my calendar. Right? Oh, no, it's actually not on my calendar.
May 11th.
It was on the agenda.
Yeah, it was on the agenda.
Because-
No, she's talking about the meeting before
Oh.
for the
right.
agenda prep. Yeah.
That's on.
But yes, the other one
Thursday.
was on the agenda.
No, so then
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay. So public comment for non-agenda items, and we have a few people who have signed up. I'll go ahead and start us off with Tony Soto.
I'm here concerning the shooting across my street, Upland Park. I'm Tony Soto from Sunnyside. I want to commend the police department for being there so quick. I was on the phone to dispatch, explaining to her what was happening, and those people were there in a hurry. And then all of a sudden, this guy comes out running in the back of my fence and out the other property. They did an excellent job. They were out there finding evidence, looking for stuff and talking to people. Unfortunately, when this incidents like this happen, it becomes a circus. And then along comes the clowns and the gawkers. I mean, come on. You know, they were picking up evidence from right there in front of my house. They had put those little things that they put up there. Well, you know, it so happens that one of your council members was up there, and he went right through that street, and those policemen were still looking for the bullet casings that were out there. I mean, they were all over the place. I mean, people should be more aware of what is happening. Those policemen were trying to get evidence and stuff that happened there. And there was a kid that was shot. The people that were right next on my street, that was the parent of the kid that was shot. That's a human being, and it becomes a circus. And even worse, that our council member was there. So it's awful. People should not, this person should be reprimanded for that. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's bad. Don't be concerned for me or for what happened, for empathy or for concerns. Be concerned for that parent that got shot. And that's a human being. And if this councilman was thinking that it was his neighborhood and he wanted a gawk, fine, but then he should have been more concerning to that parent that her kid got shot. So when I'm saying more empathy and more concern, I don't want it from anybody, but that lady needed it. It was her kid that was shot. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Soto. Next up on our list is Vicky Ripley. Next up on our list is Teresa Hancock.
Yeah, Teresa Hancock, Sunnyside. I just want to say that while I was still on council, I got many, many complaints from people about kids riding their motorcycles without helmets up around the hill. I watched as we were helping Mr. Dolan, Sharon, Vicky, we were out helping a senior citizen rehab her property so that she wasn't in violation of city code. And here comes these kids on these motorcycles, no helmets, as fast as they can, curvy roads. And I have called and I have talked to Rob, and I will continue to talk with Rob. I know Rob cares. I'm not saying that this is Rob's fault or anything else. But today, or I guess it was today, 10 hours ago, somebody posts on there. They have pictures of these kids on these illegal motorcycles on the road riding. And these kids don't have helmets on. Some people are excusing it, saying, well, it's just kids being kids. It's breaking the law. I don't care what you want your kids to do or how much you don't want to parent. If someone is, say me, if I'm driving on Crescent or one of these roads and I hit one of these kids, I've got to live with it the rest of my life. Their parents didn't get them off the road so that I didn't have this accident. We need to enforce these laws. There's pictures of these kids. They're identifying themselves on Facebook. We need to do something about that. They're saying, well, would you rather they were shooting people or gang banging? Those aren't the two alternatives. It isn't riding and breaking the law or being a gangbanger. There's other things. And hopefully we get a Boys and Girls Club here. But in the meantime, the parents still need to be parents. So I hope you guys take this seriously. It's been going on for over 5 months, but lots longer than that. But for 5 months, I've been advocating for this and to get this stopped before there is a real tragedy. And there's going to be a real tragedy here.
Thank you. Up next, and the final person on the list is Sharon Dolan. Is there anybody online?
Hello, Council. A lot of my questions were answered in the court stuff, but one question I have is when the budgeting was going on for 2026, at the end of 2025, the court gal did a presentation and talked about the revenue and the funds coming in. But a former council member asked, what are the court's expenses? And she didn't have that information when she was doing her presentation. And the election happened and that council person wasn't on council anymore. So that information, I don't believe council was ever given. Maybe I missed a meeting about what are the expenses of the court. Where do we stand? Are we losing a lot of money? Are we making money? Where do we stand? And so I think the finance committee needs to ask for that report. What was the year-end expenses of the courts? What is the city looking at? That's one thing. Another thing is, and I don't remember if it was at the end of the year or at the beginning of the year with the new council, but it was because of all the financial woes and we don't know where we are, it was stated that, and Monica Hofstetter agreed to it, that a quarterly report would be given to council. And I'm wondering, Finance Committee, do you have that? And when will that be available to the public? Because I would like to look at that. That's all I have.
Can you maybe answer that, sir? That particular about the quarterly report, because we are working on having that soon.
Right.
Just
We'll make every effort to get that
make it-
report.
We are working towards that.
It's on my list.
Leo's a busy guy.
He's a busy guy.
Okay, there seems to be no one online wanting to make a public comment. Is there anything else for the good of the order?
I confess,
Uh-oh.
it was me. I went up there, one of my constituents called me. I
Oh,
had her son in my class and they called and said, oh, there's somebody shooting up here. So I did. I went up there. I did not cross any police tape or any police lines. I stayed in my car except to talk to one of our officers because I know him pretty well. And, you know, I don't have pockets full of casings anywhere. So I don't.
Good to know.
She's kind of, she gets excited sometimes. I told her, I told her that when we were sitting together one night at a council meeting, I said, Tony, you need to write a book and I'll be your first customer and buy that thing because she's great. She's very entertaining sometimes. I love sitting with her. She's just, and I saw the scare on her face when we drove past because she was out in her yard. I was gonna stop and see if she's okay. I used to live across the street from the house she lives in now. And that was a crazy, crazy thing that happened up there. There was over 100 markers in the street down on the north side of the park. They had all their markers and all the casings everywhere. And when I talked to the officer, he says, yeah, they were down here shooting at each other 20 yards away and nobody got hurt. I don't know if she's talking about somebody getting shot, but there was.
Rob didn't indicate anybody was injured.
No, there was well over 150 casings and no one got killed. I was thanking the Lord for that.
So I just wanted to see what the possibility is to update our website with some of the contact information, numbers, email addresses, even for city staff. I was just at an appointment earlier and they couldn't get a hold of anybody in code enforcement. They had a concern and I emailed you, Mr. Haley, about a fire hydrant that's being blocked by some fencing. And so it should be in your email. So I was just wondering what we could do to update the city website to have those phone numbers and emails updated.
So if there is any code enforcement, please, if you guys are direct them to me, and then I will direct them to my building official and my building inspector and myself to take care of those. We haven't received any calls or anything for the fire hydrant. So if it is a concern, please allow me to be able to rectify that and get that taken care of.
And I forgot that you were in charge of code enforcement, but I just
Oh, no,
shot
and that's okay. That's okay.
And I shoot it to him.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, there is a lot of outdated information and I did include that in the email to Mr. Haley too.
I brought that up too.
Yeah, so.
and we are
It was
working on getting the code enforcement. We have it posted in-house. There are 3 applicants that will be interviewed, and if those 3 applicants don't work out, then we'll post it out to the public. So just to give you a heads up. So,
We're required by contract to do that.
yes.
All right. So,
I just want to throw a shout out to this guy right here because he put our numbers up there for our constituents to call us. And I've been getting a lot of calls. I got to start wearing my phone around now.
you weren't getting calls already?
Lots of them.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we will, wrap up this meeting at 8:07.